Good afternoon, and thanks for joining me. This is the Uplift with Vision, and I'm Rev.Jeanne, coming to you from my home. Glad you're joining us. You know, these daily messages are a chance for us to just connect in this time of isolation, and also to uplift our minds and our hearts, connecting with the divine. So we do that by starting in prayer. So I just invite you to close your eyes and join me in knowing that God is all there is. That one divine power, that presence, that is the invisible behind the visible. It is that perfect guide that walks through our lives with us, as us, for us, and with us. We are absolutely part of this divine presence, this divine power. And so we rest in this, knowing that we are just guided and protected and supported and supplied in every way possible. I know that this is the truth. I know this is the truth for me. This is the truth for each and every person tuning in today, joining heart to heart. And so I am just so grateful for this time together, this time to connect, this time to uplift. So I call it good, knowing that all is well, and so it is. Amen. So again, welcome. Looking back at the world these days, I don't know about you, but I can get pretty overwhelmed. Things are in such a state of flux. There's chaos and I don't know what chaos and randomness to everything. So it's gotten me thinking about the idea of the invisible impulse that is behind the visible world. I've always loved the idea of the invisible, even as a child. It's the world of magic and fantasy and angels and dreams and all those things wonderful, right? Those things that are behind the physical world. It's always fascinated me. And of course, in religious science, we believe and know that the invisible is what creates the visible world. The power of the mind, of thoughts, of intentions, the invisible, right? That creates the tangible, the physical, the visible world. We say change your thinking, change your life, and our thoughts become our reality. Those are just ways to remind us and acknowledge that the invisible world of our thoughts are the creative architects of the visible world. What we see is the outpicturing of our thoughts and beliefs. So remembering this truth has really helped me to just stay centered during this time of uncertainty and the drastic changes that are around us. Remembering that I am more than whatever fleeting fear that travels through my mind, and that instead I am one with the universal creative mind. I am a co-creator of the universe, and I'm part of the great invisible that creates the visible around me. One of my favorite Bible passages comes from 2 Corinthians. It says, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is only temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." There is a universal truth about the unseen, the invisible. And that's where the real action is. Yet our eyes are fixed and transfixed sometimes on the scene, right? And that's not to say that we should ignore the visible. I mean, look at the beauty we would miss. Nature, Mother Nature, the magnificence, the landscapes, the flowers, all of that. And the faces of our loved ones, right? The smiles, those things that open our hearts, you know. The visible is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But what's important to remember is that it's temporary. It's only temporary. The energy, the power, the life that's behind it, that's eternal. And that's where the magic really happens. Yes. The Irish poet John O'Donoghue wrote, "The invisible is the parent of the visible. It's on the threshold between visible and invisible that our most creative conflicts and challenges come alive. Each new beginning, each new difficulty always finds us at that frontier." So here we are, at that frontier, right? On the threshold between the visible and the invisible, at a new beginning with its new difficulties, yes. And it's the place where our most creative conflicts and challenges certainly are coming alive, yeah. That's where we are in the process right now. In the midst of a pandemic that has essentially stopped the world as we know it, we're at the threshold. Welcome. But here's the good news. Actually, the best news. The invisible is stretching ahead of us right now. It's creating a new world. It's creating our next world. It's the one that's built from the intentions, the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs, the faith that we hold right this minute, right? Remember, the invisible created the visible that we're seeing right now, today. So by the time we see what's currently around us, the invisible is well ahead of us, laying down the next part of the path. Ernest Holmes says, "There is a life force, an energy and intelligence seeking an outlet through everything. Everywhere life is always in an active state. It is forever doing something. The invisible seems to be teeming with an energy backed by an intense desire to create." The invisible is teeming with this energy. And we are co-creators with that invisible energy. We align with that intense desire to create. This active creative impulse shapes our desires, our dreams. And it actually becomes visible moment by moment of our lives. Right? Often it's only in retrospect that we see the path that we've been on. Right? You think of those times where you look at the synchronicity of your life and how it was just the perfect part of the pattern, right? You say, oh, it was all part of the plan. I just didn't see it at the time. Right? And so it's times like that that give us confidence to use right now to move forward in faith. Now, there is an invisible force within us that is always guiding us. I like to call it an internal GPS. It's a force that's always pushing and pressing in to us, to enlarge us, to call us to be more, to live more. Right? And the truth is, the supply is always there, even within the thought. By the thought, it has been created. It reminds me of this great scene from the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it's a great one. In the story, Jones is searching for the Holy Grail, which will, he believes, save his father's life. And at one point he finds himself on the edge of this massive canyon, and across from him is the Holy Grail. And the crevice is too wide for him to leap, but he needs to get across. And he must simply trust that the way will appear. And so he takes a deep breath, and he closes his eyes, and he just steps out, fully expecting to fall to his death. And instead, his feet hit solid ground. And it turns out there's a thin rock bridge that spans the two sides that you just can't see. It's an optical illusion because of the canyon, but it's there, right? It's such a great image. It's such a great image. You know, for Jones, the way was invisible until trust and need combined. And that's what helped him take his step. And likewise, our invisible path is already laid out ahead of us. Our next visible step, our next experience to have is just as certainly will it appear when we're ready and when it's needed. We can trust ourselves to know and to choose wisely. We can trust ourselves because we can trust Spirit, and we are one with Spirit. Ernest Holmes says, in this invisible law of enfoldment, we must come to trust. And although we do not see the way, we must believe the way is and is operative. We must trust the invisible, for it is the sole cause of that which is visible. We must trust. It's all about trust. It's all about trust. And what strengthens our trust is, of course, our spiritual practices that we do. The meditation, the affirmative prayer, the affirmations. Those are what strengthen our trust. Those are what lays the foundation for us to step on. To move as we move forward. So I want to end with a powerful prayer by Ernest Holmes, just to ground ourselves in the ideas that we've considered here today. So I just invite you to close your eyes, open your heart to these words. Today I accept the presence of the divine power in my life. Today I believe that it is operating in all my affairs. Today I accept that there is a divine guidance telling me what to do. Today I affirm that there is a power that goes before me and prepares the way. I affirm that this power is love and life. I affirm that the divine presence is a presence of joy and happiness. I affirm that there is something within me that knows what to do under every circumstance and in every situation. And so I deliberately turn from everything that seems confusing, and I no longer listen to that which denies the reality of God in my experience. I believe, I permit, I accept, and I know. And so it is. So I just invite you to know this ever more deeply this week, today, and to trust that the path that is laid solidly ahead of you is there and ready. To trust that the invisible is behind the visible. So thank you for joining me today, and make sure you tune in tomorrow for another Uplift. And I just hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.